So, Chapter 1, review. We will do problems from pages 50 through 52. And as we go through this, I'll tell you which problems you need to do for each one of the sections on there. I advise you to treat these problems just like this was your test. Don't treat this like another homework assignment where you're getting help from me or other people as you go. I mean, I'm here to help you. Don't think that I'm not. But what I mean is, see where you're at. Use this to judge how well you know what you're going to be tested on next time. So if you sit down and work on these problems and you fly through them all and you get them all right, you're pretty well prepared for the test. But if you can't get through much of any of it, that lets you know how much you need to be studying before you come into your Friday morning. Okay? So what I mean by go through it is if you don't know how to do the first 5 problems, just skip them. And go do any of the problems that you do know how to do. Figure out where you're at and what you need to learn. And then you can ask me or our friends like we normally do and see where you're at. Get your help that way. Does that make sense? It's better to do that than just sit there and work through it and have me tell you everything or your friend tell you everything. That doesn't help you prepare for the test on Friday. Okay? So looking at section 1 there, the reason I like this review, which is pretty much what we'll normally do for a review, splits it up into sections, lets you know exactly what you need to know out of each section. And on section 1 there on page 50, we will do problems 11 through 18. What do the directions say there for all of those problems? The first word. Evaluate. That's all you have to do is plug in those values that it gives you. Now, 11 through 14, you don't even have any variables in there. All you're doing is simplifying. Anybody know what the most important thing is out of section 1? You've got to know. Order of operations. That's the biggest thing. You've got to know it. Not only know the order, but know how to use it. Okay, those should be giving points on the test. I mean, they don't even have any variables. That's just putting the numbers together. But you've got to put it together in the right order. Okay? So make sure you know how to use that. There again, if you can do all 8 of those problems and get every one of them right, you're probably in pretty good shape. But if you remember the day we did section 1, when I asked for a couple of answers, I got about 5 different answers because everybody was doing it a different way. Only one right, but using the order of operations. Okay, pretty simple. And then 15 through 18 there, you got to plug in the value first. Once you've done that, then it's just like the first one. Okay. Section 1, 2. We will do problems 20 through 25. There will be some of those first 3 problems on the test. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, but there will be some of those problems. You've got to know what each one of those letters represents and how to know whether that number fits in that category or not. So classifying numbers will be on there. Let's run through those letters real quick. Which one do we know is going to always be there? Real. And what letter represents real? R. So you know real, you know R is always going to be there. What else? Anybody remember? What's the next thing that splits it up? Rational or irrational? What letters are those? Because R is real. I is for irrational, right? What was for rational? Q. And again, you'll always have R, and then you'll have one or the other of those every time. And then the last three groups, what were they? What was one of the set of numbers? Somebody remember? Integers was one of them. What letter was for integers? Z. And what were the integers? Who remembers that? Negatives and positives. So it's -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3, on to infinity both ways. So what's another set? Naturals. I think N represented those. Natural numbers, what were they? What was the other set? Whole. Remember, they were pretty close. What was the difference between whole and natural? There you go. Whole starts with 0. Natural starts with 1. So, and it's all positive numbers. So make sure you can do that on those three problems, 20, 21, and 22. What do you need to do to all of them before you can start classifying? Like, simplify, but what do we want to do? Like 22, what do you need to do there? Right. What form do you want the numbers? Decimals. Always get all the numbers in decimal form before you classify. So remember that. And then the next set of problems. Is basically adding and subtracting like terms, putting like terms together. Like 23, you got ends and ends to put them together. And they're probably some distributed here. Yeah. 24 to 25, you can write it distributed. Most of us have distributed down pretty well. Questions on 1-1 or 1-2 before we move on? 1-3 then. Solving equations. For 1, basically. We will do those top problems there. 28, 333. And then there, we will also do some of those bottom 35 through 38. And I'll probably only put 1 or 2 of those bottoms on there. So that first section, 28 through 33, is just solving equations. What does it mean, solve an equation? Solve for the variable. Get the variable by itself. That's all you have to do on those 6 problems. Up top there, get the variable by itself. So number 28, we're looking at that. What are you going to do there? Add 6. That's all you got to do. Get your answer. So inverse operations to solve equations. There will be quite a few of those on there. So make sure you can do that. And then 35 through 38. It's pretty much the same thing as solving equations, solving for the variable. But you're not going to get like x equals 3 when you do these. Those are the ones where you've got to use inverse operations to solve for whichever variable you have. There's usually 4 or 5 different variables in there. But you got to get whichever one it asks you to by itself. Like number 35, x plus by equals c, you've got to get x by itself, and everything else has to be moved to the other side. Section 1.4 is absolute value equations. So 40 through 45. These should be pretty simple points as well. The only difference between section 3 and section 4 is you've got to split these up since they're absolute value. You have to remember that. Number 40. I don't even remember what it equals. Doesn't matter. Since that's absolute value, you cannot just subtract 11 here. I cannot say that enough, because I promise you there will be some people that will do that on Friday on the test. You can't solve it when it's inside absolute value. You have to split that up. And you're going to do the same thing on all these problems. Okay? I'm not going to finish solving that. You'll do it in your homework. But you have to remember that step, because this answer will be on there. If you just subtract 11 right there, what would that be, 34? That will be an answer for it. So don't pick it. Make sure you realize that has to be two answers. Section 5, over on the next page, were the inequalities. There's no absolute value on these. You've got to recognize that. They'll be all mixed up on the test. They're not going to be 5 problems section 1, 5 problems section 2, and so on. They'll be all mixed up. You've got to recognize whether it has absolute value in it or not, and then know how to solve. None of those out of section 5 do. We'll do 47 through 52. Biggest thing for these inequalities is remember the rules. Open, close circles, and flip the sign. When do we flip the sign? Or divide by a negative. Flip the sign if you multiply or divide by a negative. But it doesn't say anything about splitting it into two, doesn't say anything about conjunctions or disjunctions. Okay? Recognize that. If it doesn't have, if it's not one of those things, that's not how you would solve it. Section 6. That's where you have the compound ones and the absolute values. And really the only thing you've got to remember from section 6 is know whether it's conjunction or disjunction. So if it's absolute value less than, which one do you have? Anybody brave enough? Conjunction. And if it's absolute value greater than, you have a disjunction. Have to know it. No other way to get it right. Both the answers will be there. The conjunction and the disjunction answers will be there. So you got to know which one it is. Any questions? What? There won't be any vocab. I mean, you might need to know some vocab to solve a problem. There won't be like fill in the blank. There won't be anything. There will all be problems just like the ones that we've got up there. They'll all be just like the ones on third view. They'll all be multiple choice. Solve, get your answer,